Mr. Hunt, what is your view about this? I mean, do you think, are you concerned that there's a threat to human rights and the rule of law by virtue of our removing ourselves from the European Union and being reliant on a rather sort of uncertain commitment to the European Convention on Human Rights?
I think the short answer to your question is that the Bingham Centre does have concerns about threats to the level of protection for human rights and the rule of law. But the degree of the threat, I think the jury is still out on. So it's quite difficult to actually assess how great that threat currently is. But the Bingham Centre, from the beginning of the Brexit process, has been particularly concerned about legal uncertainty. That's been the very particular focus of the Bingham Centre's interest in the Brexit process.
So for the listening public, legal uncertainty is one of those things that is of concern in the rule of law. It's central. We're a country that's been, have liked to think of ourselves as having been at the heart of the creation of the rule of law around, here and in, supporting it around the world. One of the things about the rule of law is, as one of the kind of, if you like, keys in it, is that there shouldn't be uncertainty about law. And so
the very act of what we're going through, disentangling ourselves from a legal order of which we've been a member for 45 years, inevitably involves a huge amount of legal uncertainty and the risk of massive legal discontinuity. And within those notions of legal certainty, there are a number of more detailed, particular principles, which are really rule of law principles to do with predictability, foreseeability, accessibility of the law, access to effective remedies in relation to rights, continuity of legal protections for rights which already exist. These are all aspects of the rule of law, and they're inevitably very much at risk when one's going through such a momentous constitutional upheaval as Brexit involves. So it's really that's been the focus of the Bingham Centre's interest, to make sure that there's sufficient certainty in the process of EU withdrawal for all those affected. That's businesses, its workers, its consumers, its citizens, EU citizens who are resident here. It's all individuals in the United Kingdom. They need sufficient legal certainty. And we did a report on the EU withdrawal bill which articulated the various rule of law values that are at stake and expressed, first of all, a very strong welcome for the government's approach in the withdrawal bill to provide legal continuity, but pointed out that in various respects it fell short because it didn't provide for that legal continuity. There were too many risks of discontinuity, including in relation to the Charter not being retained, general principles, Frankovich, liability and so on. So there were various concerns about the withdrawal bill. Now that to some extent is historic, as events have moved on so much since the withdrawal bill. But I think there are still a very real set of concerns about the extent of legal discontinuity, even in the event of a deal and a transition period. And there's one of the main focuses of our concern was that the legal protection of human rights is obviously a very important set of rights which EU law contributes to. It's not clear, I don't think, that there will be continuity in terms of the legal protection of human rights in our legal framework post-Brexit. And to return to your question, Baroness Kennedy, I think what the government's position in its response to this committee's letter does is simply to add to that uncertainty by reintroducing the question of the possibility of repealing the Human Rights Act or reforming the Human Rights Act, because that does throw into an already very uncertain mix the possibility that there will be changes to our human rights legal framework.
Lord Cromwell.